This is what I call masculine beauty. In other words, we are trying to force a beauty narrative based on what the masses have told us is acceptable. Hello, this is your girl Lock Lotus from Goddess Lock Media, and I am here today to share with you some insight on the stages of locking and how to love your locks in every stage. The first stage of locking is the stage that a lot of people don't like. It's been called the ugly phase, and I really hate that. When it comes to your starter locks and people saying, that there's a such thing as an ugly stage, let me ask you something. If no one ever told you about an ugly stage or an ugly phase, would you know that one existed? And what I mean by that is, a lot of times we adopt certain phrases and thought processes, especially when it comes to beauty. When it comes to certain things and a standard that has to be met, the masses get to choose what that standard looks like, and everyone else goes along with it, adopt the notion as their own reality or their truth. The ugly stage only has its power, and it only exists because collectively we are trying to meet a beauty standard immediately when we first get our locks, versus allowing them to naturally develop and process on their own. We want to be in a certain space immediately and have a certain look immediately. So because it's not there, we're automatically saying it's ugly. So now I'm in the ugly stage or the ugly phase of my lock journey because it doesn't look the way I want it to look, because I want to rush that process. It's not acceptable to the masses. So now I'm putting a wig on it, or I'm covering it up until it gets to the look that I want it to have. This is what we do to ourselves. And when it comes to something as far as locking your hair, that is a very individual journey, an individual process. And honestly, I feel like it's something that us as women of color, African American women, it's something that allow us to get our power back, but we're still giving it away, putting a standard on it. So when it comes to the first stage of your locking journey and you're putting it in the atmosphere and into your locks that it's ugly, be careful with that. It's a lot that goes along with our lock journey. And when we are putting negative energy into them, especially while they're new, we're putting that level of energy into them. It's not really a good relationship to be developed. So I tell people there is no such thing as an ugly phase when it comes to locking your hair. It's really just a phase that you have to be comfortable with going through. I would say use the starter lock phase as an opportunity to bond with your own individuality. Instead of trying to force it into someone else's beauty standard, allow yourself to nestle into the fact that this is who I am and this is how my locks are looking now. I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to love them in every phase that they're in. How about we adopt that? So when it comes to the next stage, so you have your babies, which is your starter locks that we're no longer calling the ugly phase. That is our bonding phase, okay? And the next phase is like, they call it like the teenage phase, like the rebellious stage. Like it's funny how the different stages have to have something like a negative twist on it. Just gives it a little negative sprinkle of something, It's not really a rebellious stage. It's the hair trying to process and actually mat, so it swells and kind of goes through a thing. But it's really just settling into who it is and who it's going to be as a lock, as an individual lock. And allow it to do that just the same way as when we are finding ourselves, in our young adults phase in life, and we're, making our mistakes and we're doing the most, and we, kind of going outside of what we're being told to do. We're trying to find ourselves is what we're trying to do. So that's what the locks are trying to do. And I hate that it has that rebellious stage stamp on it, but that's all that's happening. So truthfully, the locks are really just trying to find their way in their new construct, being positioned to be a lock. So let's love it. Let's love it while it's there. And guess what? The stage may not last as long if you go ahead and love it. We have our mature stage where the locks have, kind of, slimmed out. They've gone through the process. Let's just love on each stage of our lock journey. And remember that there is no such thing as an ugly stage. There is no such thing as a rebellious stage. And we're going to love them into maturity. I want you to get to a space, especially for new lock wearers, get to a space where you are loving every moment of your journey. I loved every stage of my locks when I first had them all the way up to now. And even just the things that I do to them that I'm not really happy with, like when I overprocess them, things like that. I'm not happy with it, but it's all a part of my journey. I learned something in every phase of my journey, and I'm loving on my locks more and more every day. I get a lot of people that say, oh, I can't wait for my locks to get that long. Wait for it. It's coming. Just enjoy life and enjoy your locks. It's coming. I promise you. Don't rush them. Don't rush them. Allow them to be. Let's take the masculine energy off of our journey. Let's take it out of our beauty practices, and let's allow our natural processes of beauty to take place, because when you do that, you allow it to be more of a natural process to move forward in versus a forced one. And anytime you're forcing something, it always comes with an issue. And that's where we have different issues when it comes to different things that we force with beauty. Love your locks, love them where they are. And with that being said, have a good one and look forward to the next video.